Hello, Thomas Hallock here, University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. Today's 3-minute lesson is on Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. And since the autobiography is a book that we typically read in the survey around the time that first papers are due, I want to discuss how we incorporate quotes. It's an undervalued skill, how we move from our ideas and our point into the evidence and then back into our broader point. There's several things you need to do. First, in order to move from your thesis or your idea into the quote, you need to have an idea to begin with. You got to have a point in order to show how that point is being carried out in your evidence. The second, you need to orient the reader. You need to tell the reader where in the story or about what part of the narrative you will find this text, this source that you're about to give. The third thing, you need to physically weave together your language and that of the author. And then you need to, having cited, tell us what we are supposed to get out of that quote. Maybe a little bit of interpretation. Why is it relevant? And then you need to come back to your point. So, in order to quote text, in order to cite text, there are 4 or 5 things that you actually need to do. To make this more clear, I'd like to come to Franklin's autobiography. I have a page here, a little worksheet that is available on the Contents and Scholarship section of the Road course. Let's look at how this works. Franklin's autobiography, first of all, was written in 1771, 1783, and then a couple of parts later. The title autobiography was actually given as an afterthought. It's a kind of hodgepodge. And here I am showing how Franklin is using his individual life in part 1 to speak for tradesmen, white tradesmen in the Americas in 1783. So I'd like to focus on the incorporation of quotes. First, in the yellow, dear son, Franklin writes, I have had the pleasure of obtaining the little anecdotes of my authors. Notice Franklin writes, Andre 3000 sings, Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued. You need to weave with the comma and the quotation marks the language of the author and your own. Now, sometimes you can do that with a colon, like in the blue section. The style is an informal, almost haphazard manner. Colon, but one does not dress for private company as for a public ball, he explains. I use the colon in this case because that line is one of Franklin's many zingers in the autobiography, and I wanted to set up the wit of what I was quoting, the wit of Franklin's text. Now, we also had the third option that we have. A third option that we have is block quoting. And again, with block quoting, you're doing quite a bit. You are setting up your thesis in the beginning in the green. You are telling the reader where you found the quote. You are making the leap from your language into that of the author. You're interpreting, and then you're coming back to your point. Again, there are 4 or 5 things to do there, each with its own step. Now, a lot of times when students ask me about how to cite, the thing that they come back to is, how do we, what format do we use? How do we do MLA format? In that case, I would ask you to do exactly what I do, which is to look it up. I go to Purdue OWL, and there you'll find it. I encourage you not to use those electronic generators that are maybe on the web. They always get it wrong. In the meantime, I want you to think about the principles of quoting, which is having your idea and then moving into the evidence and then coming back to your broader point, which is basically what a humanities education should do. Thank you very much. Road Course in American Literature. Peace.